I never went and put the other video.
Oops.
I just didn't put it in the playlist. If they go looking for it, they should be able to find it, but it's not in the playlist. All right, so going to video today, going to work on our project. I am going to get you started, but I am not doing it for you. Well, not much of it. So if we get the Word doc open, I don't know why I didn't have that open. I have everything else open. Let me put it over here. So if you have the directions open, you have idle started. So I have a blank one ready to go, and I have create negative image from the resources file. I have it open also because part one actually tells you to start by using this as your foundation, right? Nobody's read it yet. Okay, got it. That's fine. So part one, if we read the directions, of course, you know, it starts off with the whole naming it correctly and everything. But the requirements for getting started says that you need the create negative image.py file. I'm going to copy and paste out of it because I want to keep it. Some people just change the name of it and keep working with the same one. I don't suggest you do that because you may want to go back to the one that's not changed at some point. Of course, I guess you could always go and re-download it, but you know. Anyway, I'm going to copy and paste. You're going to either rename it or put it in a new folder with your name and the project in the name. You're going to put in your main method a print statement with your name in it, where when I run it, I see your name. Why? Because this makes it easier for me to grade. It also makes it really easy for me to tell if you copied your friend's code when they turn it in with your name. The print statement still in the main. And you all look at me like I'm crazy. It has happened more than once. I didn't say it happened in this class, but it has happened more than once. So this one, part one, is 72 points. It is red, green, or blue, right? So we are going to make a color wash of red, green, or blue. So if you, I don't know, have y'all looked at the pictures or not, but one of the pictures is an Infinity War Avengers picture with all the regular colors in it. But now we're going to make it where it's in tones of red, right? To do this, we're going to start with the base of our negate. So let's make sure that we get negate working first, right? We want to make sure what we're starting from works. So I'm going to run it just to prove to myself that it works, and it does. Y'all know what a negative image looks like? It looks like this. Y'all know what? Yeah.
I got help from the computer people.
So if you have negate, y'all know, did I tell y'all, did I explain what a negative image was?
You told us the opposite.
It's the opposite, okay. So we did do it in class. I get your class and the other class mixed up and I don't know what I've told each. So if we're looking at this, we created the negative image by taking the total amount of red and subtracting the current amount, same for the blue and the green. So we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna copy and paste all of this into a new file. You can rename it if that makes you happy. I don't care. But like I said, I like to keep my originals. Not that I'm paranoid, but I'm a little paranoid. Just a little. That I won't have something to go back to if I screw something up. So now that I've got it over here and I copy and pasted it, I'm going to run it one more time just to make sure it's right. I'm going, when you do a new file, make sure that you save it into the projects folder. And it still works. Okay, great. So I'm going to now start editing this file. Well, you want me to make this bigger probably, don't you?
Wait, so you copied the code from the previous project?
I absolutely did. You can just rename create negative image, but then you won't have it to go back to look at unless you re-download it. To me, it's worth a few extra seconds not to have to go re-download it when you screw up and need to redo it. So from here, we're going to do part one, step one, add a function called create washed image that will take an image and a color as parameters. The color will be a string. It will then create and return an image that is color washed, the specific color. The only valid colors to wash the image in for this part will be red, green, and blue. We'll add more colors later in part two. But for this one, we're going to do red, green, and blue. So I'm going to come in here and you can do it at the top, you can do it at the bottom. I don't care where you put it in order. You just need to put in create image. Now, the line in our code or in our project says red image equals create washed image img comma red in strings, but that's it being used. The parameters have to be defined as variable names, right? Yeah. All right, nodding like that. So these two are specific to it being called, but we want to make them generics for when we define it. So in this case, I used in my code the image because that's what it used for create negative. And when I go and steal stuff out of create negative image, I don't have to worry about changing variable names because I like to copy and paste. So, and then I want this function later to do something other than red. I want it to be able to take a color, so I'm going to just use the generic color. That makes sense? Okay, so if we look at negate image, we notice that it creates a new image or an empty blank picture for us to copy into. It has the functionality code here that loops through all the pixels and then does some changes. And at the very end, it's returning the entire picture that we created, the new picture. So now we have it copied over our old picture. We still have it to do stuff with later. All right. So to do this, what's the first thing we need to do in our new function? We want a new image. We want a blank canvas to draw on. So again, lazy me. It's going to come down here and oops, it is so big I can't get the whole line on the screen. I'm going to come down here and copy this line of code and put it in here. Now, I didn't copy the comments. You have to add your own comments and your own doc strings. You know how to do this. This is not something I need to do for you. So I'm gonna have a new image now to work with. I need to loop through every pixel in the picture, and I'm gonna do that with what?
Well, no,
Or am I do it with
While
more
we-
than one for loops?
Oh,
I
yeah.
need nested for loops. So I need a 4 for the columns and a 4 for the rows. Oddly enough, again, I can copy and paste that straight out of create negative image to up here. Make sure that you get your tabs straight if you're copying and pasting. I'm going to tell you, copying and pasting will annoy you because you'll be one space off with your tabs. So be very careful with your tab spacing. Because we ran into this a lot yesterday. So, ow, that was my knee. It's okay. We're going to get the pixel. We're going to get an individual pixel with this line of code, right? And then we're going to create code from there to change it. Yes.
Never mind, I see it.
Okay. So I'm going to copy this line also. And then my copying kind of comes to an end. I can copy some stuff, but now is when I need to start making changes. So if we are going to make this function useful for not only red, but blue and green, when the user puts in that color, we got to make a decision. What have we used so far that makes decisions? If else, absolutely. So I'm going to create an if statement in here inside the for loops to check if color equals red, I want to do something.
hey, no parentheses.
You could do it with or without the parentheses. It does not matter. Java needs the parentheses. Python does not. I write Java code in the afternoon and Python in the morning, so they mix together. All good. All right, so this work, what are we going to do if we want it to be red? Well, if we look at our negate image, we subtracted red, right? And if we want it to be red and only red tones, we got to do something to green and blue. So we're going to make, absolutely, we're going to make green and blue both 0 because we don't want the green or blue. So those are the easy ones. We're just going to make the new green and the new blue 0. But what are we going to do for red? You're going to max it out to 55. Okay, let's try that. Again, I'm going to copy and paste because I'm lazy. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you need the new image, the new pixel. You might as well just copy all that up here, but you're going to have to make sure it tabs over. See, and the tabs are all wrong. All right, so why am I doing this way, where it's lining up with the ifs? And I changed the tabbing when I copied it. These two lines are going to be part of the for loop. These lines to change the color need to be part of the if. So be aware of that when you start tabbing. And they're going to be off by 1. So I'm going to get rid of, you said to make red 255, so I'm going to do that. We're going to make green 0. Well, we were until the numlock wasn't on. We're going to make green 0. And we're going to make blue 0. Right? Theoretically, this should work, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's test it because I like to test things. Need the return statement. Yes, forgot it. But it's got to go out here. It needs to line up with the outer 4, not the inner 4, right? If you do the inner 4, it's going to do one column and then return it, and it's not going to do the whole picture. So I'm going to go down to main now and test it. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to load and process image and test it. We're not testing in main. I'm going to comment these 2 lines out because I don't want to negate it and color wash it, because you'll get something really, really weird, right? So in here, I'm going to create washed image, and I'm going to have to give it the image, and we're going to give it a color, right? So IMG is defined up here because it went and got the file name from main and stuff. Everybody with me? All right. So let's run it and see what happens with what we've got. Huh. I made a mistake. Anybody know what mistake I made? Forgot to put it in a variable, and then I forgot to draw it. Remember we talked about yesterday or in class last time that you have to, with pictures, you have to draw it after you change it, because otherwise the graphics card doesn't automatically refresh it because it's really low tech. Not like a video game that has a refresh rate of every few nanoseconds. So every time you test something, you have to, if you're returning the picture, you have to put it in a variable, and then you have to have that variable draw itself. Does that make sense? If you forget this, it won't draw. And you'll go, oh, I didn't do anything. Just like what mine did. It did, it just didn't show it to you. So we're gonna run this now. I think 255 is wrong. And yeah, I set you up for failure. I'm sorry. So we know that if we set it every pixel to all red, we get a red box. So, and we know that if we take the max red and subtract the color, we get the opposite of the color we want. What do we do just to get it in red tones? Don't change the red. Just use the same red you got. So you take the blue and the green out of it, which makes it some shade of red. So you'll have from the lightest pinkish red color all the way up to black, right? So we're going to close this, and we're going to come back here and we're going to edit our code. And instead of putting 255 in here, we're just going to do pixel dot get red. Oh, wait a minute. Let me make sure I wrote that's Java. No, well, it's done that way. All right. Use it. Python kills me because it uses camel case in some places and not in the others. So do what I do, not what I say, kind of philosophy here. All right. So if we do that, and that's just a simple change there, and we run it again, now we get a picture that is the original picture, but just in shades of red. So moving forward in our if statement, I have written all the code I'm writing for you. Can you check on? Did you have a question? So if you moving forward from here, I'm writing no more code for you. I'm coming just a second. Let me get them started. If you change your ifs or add some else if statements, you can do blue and green using the same model we have for red. I also have not written the part where you ask the user which picture they want to do. And you ask the user what color you want to watch. You have to figure that out. I'm going to tell you that all of the input statements that you use may or may not be in the same function. So right now, these are going to be my hints for you. Main only calls load and process image. And it's hard coded in an image. So you're probably going to ask in main before you call that what picture they want. And then pass that in as a variable as a load. Right? And then when load call comes up, that's when you might want to ask which thing you want to do to the image. Because if you put all those questions in the main, you have to change load and process more. You can do it. I don't care how you do it, as long as it's done in a reasonable fashion. Do not write code that is not inside of a function. The only two lines of code that should be outside of a function definition is the import statement for picture or see picture, right? And the very last line that's main, calling main to start. None of the rest of it should just be free floating orphan code out there. Don't orphan your code. It's sad and it's lonely and it wants to belong to somebody. Put it in a function. Hush. So that's my step. That is where I am going to leave you on your own from here. Because this is project 2. We're over halfway through the semester. You should be able to do input statements. You should be able to do else if statements. You should be able to write your own functions. I should not be reminding you not to orphan your code at this point. If you think I am being too hard on you, talk to the students that are in 1301 and 1302. I am actually being very nice to you at this point. All right, that is all of the lecturing I'm going to do today. Let me stop this video.